All right, guys. So very happy with kind of how we're progressing. I'm really liking the progress we've made on the arm flip, right? The timing of it. So I just went back looking at some old videos, communications, right? And kind of just going through those and comparing them to this video. What I saw was at about this point when the front foot kind of reaches the front of the mound. At that point, we were already like pretty much completely flipped up, right? So this is really good to see, right? The arm is still kind of at about 90 degrees, maybe a little bit lower, right? But this looks really good, right? We've delayed that timing of the flip up, so we're not, flipped up before we even, made contact with that front foot. So that looks really good. And we've made some good progress there, right? You can see here, right? This is kind of the first moment where front foot makes contact with the ground, and then you're still kind of just about at that peak of the flip upright. So everything from there looks good. We're going to kind of keep moving with that to get at this position with our bottom half, maybe more to like 90 or this position, right? So 90 to 30 degrees, right, somewhere in between there. So that looks really good. The main thing that I wanted to look at, right, is going to be kind of that back view that you sent, and really going to talk about kind of the head and the spine in this kind of release position, right? As you kind of finish. So talking about that spine, what I just wanted to kind of look at, right, from this angle is looking at this line will be 90 degrees and this line is 45, right? So the angle that your spine and your head are at release, right, when it comes to ball release and that timing, right? Where's that spine going when compared to 90 degrees, right? As we can kind of see, there's this very big lean that you have, right? You also have a little bit of tilt with your head as it kind of goes with your spine, right? But your head is tilted a little bit more than your spine is. So what that's going to do, right, is that's going to kind of slow down the speed that your body rotates and moves at, right? So ideally what we want to be in is about like 90 to about like 65, 75 degrees of kind of lean here. So somewhere around here, we kind of want, the spine to be within, right? This is kind of on the end scale, right? So leaning a little too much with the head tilt, right? So that lean in the spine is going to slow down the body rotating as well as the head is going to kind of change your peripheral, right? So your head moving is going to, cause you to kind of see everything moving with it, right? So that's going to go into kind of command and accuracy with your pitches, right? So that's something we kind of want to look to. And I want to look at this angle, right, that we have, this back angle. It's really good to be able to see it. We kind of go down, right? And again, our timing a lot better, right? We haven't landed yet, right? But much better than the other videos. But going back, right? So we're here going into release, right? Right about here. So you can kind of see that we have, our center of mass is about right here. So if you basically go right from the shoulder to the elbow, right, and draw a line straight down, this is our center of mass, right? And you can kind of see that we really shoot out here with our body, right? So our arm has plenty of room to really, release through and have that arm path, right? But our body is going to be slowed down because of that excessive spine bend, right? So what I want to do is, right, so here's a good close up, right? So this line red was about 75 degrees, right? This straight line is 90, and this is you at about 45 degrees, right? So you can kind of see that big difference in kind of where a lot of guys are, right? Most guys are going to be between this 90 to 75, right? If they have what I would consider like standard mechanics on the mound, right? So 90 to 75, you'll see some guys kind of around like the 65-degree area, right? Kind of more around here, but generally they're going to be, within 15 to kind of 25 degrees from 90 degrees if they do have kind of a significant bend in their spine, right? As you can kind of see here, you're all the way out here at 45 degrees. So that's kind of like an extremity. You're on the far end, right? So that's something that we'll kind of think about as we kind of move forward. And then I wanted you to compare kind of a front view of Shohei, right? So here's 90 degrees, right? This line, so this is his belt, right? 90 degrees. And then you can kind of see, and the camera angle isn't perfect, but you can kind of see, he isn't kind of out at 45 here, right? He's at about 68 degrees, um, pretty close to like in between 70, 65. So he's in that, 15 to 25 degree range where most guys usually are if they have some kind of spine bend. So this is just a good example to show you guys, right, kind of where you are and then where, a professional like Shohei, right, kind of where he is in his posture and things like that as he's moving down the mound, right? So just looking back at some things we can kind of look at, right, is what we can do is potentially kind of delay um, this, torso extension, right? So you do a good job of kind of loading in that back hip, and you got a little bit of flexion in that spine, right? What we can kind of do is think about, delaying this extension just a little bit, right? So you really go into extension here, right? Maybe we can delay it just a little bit. So once you land, then you're really going into extension, right? Rather than like a frame or two here where you're kind of already in extension, right? So we can work on that. What we can kind of do is build some flexion, right? Kind of like you do at the start of the delivery, right? But maybe hold that a little bit longer down the mound, right? Another thing we can kind of look at is your front foot and kind of where it lands, right? You can kind of see here, you're not really landing directly in front of you, which some guys do land open, but I think it is affecting you kind of landing a little bit too open to where your center of mass is kind of shifting over. And I think that's where we're getting some of this bend, right? Because your lower half is taking you kind of in this direction, pointed out towards here, right? So your upper half is going to want to follow that, right? So that's why you kind of see your spine kind of bending in that direction, kind of following that front foot, kind of following where that energy is going. So I think working on being a little bit more, better posture, moving down the mound, flexion in the spine, right? Moving a little bit longer to try to eliminate that early extension. And then also working on this front foot, maybe landing a little bit more closed, right? Kind of see what that does. So we'll play around with that for a little bit, kind of see what that does in a month or two, right? And then kind of go from there, right? But again, overall, the two main things are going to be this spine bend and the timing of the arm, which has gotten better. So everything looks really good.